Yo, welcome back to another episode of the People Side Podcast. I'm here with my guest, Nelson, and we're going to be talking about dating apps, our approaches to dating, and what we learned from our past relationships in this episode. I'm also going to let you in on a little secret. This episode was cut from the previous episode, so it's a little messy, but if you go on YouTube, there are timestamps so you can jump around. But other than that, that's the intro, right? Let's hop right in. But I guess back to the topic of relationships.
Sure.
What's your opinion on dating apps?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's
let's make it specific to Vancouver, right?
specific to Vancouver.
Yeah, specifically from Vancouver. What's your?
Well, my opinions are a bit more broad about dating apps.
Okay, go for it.
I think naturally when you're interested in someone in person, right? You kind of build up sort of an interest in that person, and over time it's a little more natural. So say like I'm with or I know somebody that's in the same class as me and I'm talking to them, then all of a sudden one day I start getting more feelings for them or something like that.
Yeah. So you're talking about the natural progression from like
progression,
friendship, or I guess like, apprenticeship to friendship to like eventually being in a relationship with someone.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So that progression in person is very natural.
Yes.
But on dating apps, it's like you start talking to them and you don't really get that. Like the intention is to go on a date with them to form a relationship, but you don't have that feeling, right? So it feels really weird to use a dating app and you're talking to someone as if you're going to date them or being in a relationship with them when you're not actually interested in them. Like you don't feel that feeling.
Yeah.
You like their profile. You're like, hey, this person has similar interests to me and I find them kind of attractive. And I want to be, you tell yourself, kind of want to be in a relationship with this person, but you don't really have that feeling. And then it makes it kind of hard to date that person because you don't feel as committed to that person when you're starting off. And it feels like a lot of work to get to that point versus when you're in person, it's very natural progression. And when you feel that feeling, doing things with that person is so much easier. So when you use dating apps, it's harder.
That's some interesting insight. So you're basically saying dating apps kind of imply you commit before you have all the information you want to decide if you want to commit.
Yeah.
Because like when you're on a dating app, it's kind of like, I'm going to date you.
Yeah.
But you don't know that until like, you don't know if you actually want that until like you meet the person, right? So, wow. Did you know, I was reading up on this because one of our friends was talking about dating in Japan.
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
I feel like I learned so much about like the culture just by reading like this one article that I found about dating in Japan. And in Japan, how it works is if like a confession is necessary, which is why like when I watch anime, I used to be like a huge anime fan.
Right.
I always found the confession kind of cringe. You know what I mean? It's like when you like someone and then you like have to confess to them in the form of like a love letter, or you say like you eventually say like I please go out with me. I always found that kind of cringe because it's not a part of our society, but it's a part of their society.
Right.
Because apparently after like the first like 2 or 3 dates or whatever, a confession is mandatory.
Yeah, that's a little
to not avoid confusion, because here in the West we have this thing of like, like, do you call it a date, do you not, is it a hangout, are you still friends, are you actually dating?
You read signs.
Yeah,
like, you look at like body language, like are they moving closer to you all the time, or they like eye contact, like are they always looking at you like constantly, like looking right into your eyes and being completely interested in what you're saying and laugh at what you say. Like when you see all that body language come into place, you're like, yeah, that person's interested in me.
Yeah, but
then
you don't actually know.
Yeah. Versus like I guess in Japan was after the third date or something, you have to confess. Yeah, I don't know, what do you think about that? 'Cause
I think that okay, so I think we're biased because we're not in Japan, right? We're in the West. So I'm a bit hesitant on being fully acceptive of that, but I do like the idea because
it's straightforward.
Yes, I'm not the type of person that likes, this like non-straightforwardness, right?
Yeah, you're kind of pussyfooting around, beating around the bush. You're like, come on, just tell me or not. Like,
it's efficient, but sometimes efficiency isn't the best route with like relationships and stuff. Because in that case, I would say is 2-3 dates really enough to actually get to know someone?
Yeah, it really depends on how long you spend with them, and I don't know if you're texting back and forth all the time or not.
Yeah.
It really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is in Japan they really value like non-verbal communication. So here we have this culture of very explicit communication, right? If you
that sounds so contradictory.
I know, like
in Japan they're like, hey, after 3 dates, tell me if you like me.
Yeah,
and then here it's like we look at body language, we look at if someone likes me, like just based on how they speak, how they look at us.
Yeah.
But then it's the complete other way around when it comes to social norms. It's like what?
Yeah, I feel like it's they kind of work hand in hand, right? Because if you really value nonverbal communication and not really being explicit, then a confession is almost mandatory, because if there's this culture of like, oh, you know, don't really say exactly 100% what's on your mind all the time, then it makes it way harder to gauge whether or not like someone is into you. So I can see them working hand in hand, but here it's like I really value communication and honesty, right?
Yeah.
And so if something like pisses you off, if there's a problem, I would like people to tell me that. But there it's not really, I guess, like encouraged, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of Japanese friends, so I can't confirm this, but I feel like the general consensus is, you know, you tend to hide what you really think, like, because you don't want to bother people, and you tend to keep to yourself more.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
my ex-girlfriend was Asian, or is Asian, not was.
Okay.
Yeah, she did a whole Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
But basically, her thing was she would usually not tell me, right? And I'd have to figure things out.
Oh.
And that frustrated the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Because it would be like, we'd be doing something, and all of a sudden, she'd be really upset with me. And I'm like, what did I do? I don't know. And then I'm trying to figure it out. And I just it's like a lot of the time I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So it was so frustrating. I guess it's more the culture. It's like you just have to kind of figure it out. But me, I'm just like feeling sad, you know, or it's like, oh, I'm so happy today, or like I'm so anxious, I don't want to go outside right now. Yeah. I would just say it.
Yeah. But would so you would actually communicate that?
Yeah, I would just say it. I'd be like, I'm feeling really sad. I don't feel like doing anything today.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Or I'd be like, hey, I feel really good today. This thing just happened to me.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm really grumpy because I burned my mouth on this cup of coffee. But I like it like that, right? Because it's like, okay, the expectation's set. He's grumpy. Leave him alone. Let him play his video games. Or, I don't know, just give him a hug or something like that, right? You know what to do in response. But when my ex-girlfriend is, like, sad, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? Like, does she want me to be around? Does she want time by herself? Does she hate me? Does she hate somebody else? Like, what's going on? Yeah. Right? So
and what would happen if you just directly asked?
It'd be like, I'd say, what's going on? What's up? And then the thing is, she would tell me sort of how she's feeling, but it wouldn't. We would kind of work through it, trying to figure out where it came from. Yeah. And she would be able to tell me sometimes about where it's coming from. She's like, "Oh, I miss my family," right? It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or it's like, you did this thing today that made me upset. I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, I did do that. My bad. So if I do ask, if we talk through it, eventually the answer comes out. Yeah. But usually the feelings come out before the words, and I have to figure it out. Yeah.
Damn. It also takes a lot to initiate. Like, I mean, I'd imagine, you know, you come home from like a long day from work, and like your girlfriend is mad at you, and you're like, and she won't tell you why, and you're just like, fuck. You know, it takes a lot of energy to initiate a conversation like that, right? Yeah. It's like,
it requires a lot of patience.
Yeah.
I remember, actually, yesterday I was trying to figure out what kind of my strongest traits were. Yeah. Because I talked to a counselor recently, and I was feeling really stressed out about things. And he said, fill out this little career form, and it shows your greatest strengths and weaknesses. And I saw patience on there. Ooh. And the moment I saw that, I thought about my relationship. Yeah. And like every time where I was feeling like shit, and then she felt like shit, I had to like not feel like shit to figure out why she wasn't feeling like shit. And I had to like push that down for a second to see what was wrong with what was going on with her. And then I could start feeling like shit as well. Because if you're both feeling like shit,
yeah,
it's messy.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're clashing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like no one wants to listen to the other person. They
Yeah,
just want to like talk.
yeah. It's like me. It's like no, me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun. Not really.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
I know.
But I think being through those situations, it makes you very patient, and I actually was very proud of how I handled a lot of situations. I could say that I'm kind of like tooting my own horn here, but I believe I'm a very patient person. Yeah. So, yeah. I think that's required for a lot of relationships, communication, and a lot of patience. Because people, when you're with somebody for a really long time, you're gonna see them at their worst.
Yeah.
And you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And they're gonna see you at your worst, and like that's something I don't like either. Because I'm not too big on being the most vulnerable. Like I like to be. I want to be a man. I want to be strong, right? But I can't do that all the time. So
Yeah. I think it's like another society, am I right?
Oh my god, society.
God damn.
Yeah, no, I just let the whole world burn.
Yeah.
We need to create a new society.
Exactly. Start from the ground up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a situation where you missed signs?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
dude, I'm so oblivious.
Really?
Yeah. I am. Like you were talking about how you were tired today. I was like, yeah, I don't notice it, but you notice it yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I miss signs all the time. Yeah. Like I miss everything.
What was the biggest sign you missed?
Oh. This is
story time. Let's go. It's great. We can trade. I have a story too.
Okay, well, this is quite. Okay, this is. I think I can tell this one.
Okay.
This was with my ex-girlfriend and me at the time, and we had a bit of a scare, so we went to get I guess Plan B, right?
Yeah.
Just in case, right?
Oh shit.
So we did that, and I was just talking with her like, this is okay. This is your choice, right? This is your body. You choose to take this if you want to. I personally would like you to take it, but it's up to you, right? Because the pill, like, it causes you to be sick. Some other symptoms.
Yeah.
And,
it's like expensive too, right?
It's like $40 or something like
for
that.
one pill.
Yeah.
Or for oh my god, yeah, that is expensive. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so she took it, and then the next day, like, my oblivious ass is like, didn't even remember that the day before. Like, I didn't remember that stuff happening, and we were supposed to go to the farmer's market and stuff. And thinking about the symptoms of taking Plan B, like, you're gonna be sick, you're gonna be groggy, right?
Yeah.
I thought, let's save some money. Let's walk all the way to the farmer's market for an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, looking back, I'm like, we should have taken an Uber or a car, right? Because she's going to be sick from this pill. She's going to be groggy. Like, she's not going to be able to walk as long. But I'm like, we can save money. Let's go for a walk. Let's take an hour-long walk to the farmer's market, an hour-long walk back once we're done. Big mistake, because...
Did you actually do that?
I did that.
Did she, like, but
she came along with me. And then, like, she didn't tell me it was a bad idea, right?
But was it? Was she, like, dying? It's kind of like a two-way street, right?
Yeah,
like, I'm sure you came in with like positive intentions. You were like, it's an hour for me to, I don't know, like, get to know this person or talk or something, right?
Well, that's the thing. I should have thought about, because she had to go through the symptoms, right? The pain of it. But I was like, let's just go for an hour-long walk, right? To the farmer's market, an hour-long walk back. And I didn't think about it, I was just excited to go on this walk and go to the farmer's market. But I was like, oh yeah, looking back at it now, it was a horrible idea because she's feeling sick. Yeah. But we're doing it anyway, and I completely forgot about it. And then I was supposed to also meet with a friend. Yeah. After all that happened, so I drop her off back home, and I'm like, all right, have fun at home. I'm gonna go meet with my friend. I should have been there for her instead because I'm still feeling sick, right? And then I come back, and then she's upset with me, and then I'm thinking, why is she upset with me? And then I start inquiring, right? And I'm like, oh crap, I'm so stupid. Like, I should have, like, taken the Uber with her, like, even the extra money, because like this thing happened, and she was going through the symptoms of taking the Plan B and all that stuff, and I went to meet up with my friend instead at the end of the day, instead of being there with her and, like, postponing it for another day, right, to see if she's okay. But I left her to herself, and so that was one of those signs, right? It's like, I just completely missed all that stuff.
Right. But at the same time, I feel like I'm putting the pieces together. This is like the same person, right? With the lack of expressive communication. Yeah. So it is kind of like a two-way street.
It's a recipe for disaster. Like she wouldn't fully communicate what she wanted, and I'm oblivious as hell. So it would eventually just escalate, right? Until the emotions came through.
I feel like when a lot of people say they value communication, you don't like what I learned is that there's levels, right? Because communication is one word. There's no depth to it when you say I value communication. But I feel like you don't really know what that means until you get into something like a relationship, because like there's different levels of communication in terms of like how explicit you are.
Right.
And that's something that I learned when being a part of any relationship. Like for example, starting a startup with co-founders, right? Like we both said we value communication at the beginning of it all, and then I later realized that our definitions of communication were different. Like we're pretty different.
Yeah, what does that look like?
In terms of what?
Like, so levels of communication, like speaking, or just like say someone just like seems frustrated, or?
Yeah, so my expectation, and expectations are an interesting thing in relationships.
Expectations. That's another one. Yeah, talk
fun
about
topic.
That. Yeah.
My expectation was if they couldn't make it to a meeting, or if they couldn't do an assignment or whatever, that they would tell me. But we had this one guy who didn't really show up to a lot of things, right? A co-founder, right? So like if you're a co-founder of a startup, we were in like this program at UBC, and if you're a co-founder, you're expected to show up with your other like that makes sense, right? Yeah. And so he didn't really show up, and he didn't really communicate why exactly he wasn't showing up. And when we reached out to him to figure out why, I think we tried reaching out, and he still didn't reply or something. But like the other co-founder, like, so I had two co-founders, right?
Yeah,
they knew each other, so they were able to talk to each other because they had class together,
right?
And so that was like the only situation where we actually got any sort of communication from him. So we learned through that, and he eventually did come back, but like a while later, that he was dealing with like family stuff.
Oh, okay.
But he didn't communicate that to us.
Right.
And so there was like a difference in communication there, right? Like, sure, like I can understand the situation in terms of like if you're dealing with family stuff and it's heavy, it makes sense that communicating with your co-founders is not top of mind, but at the same time, it's also a commitment. And if you value communication, doesn't it make sense for you to tell, you know what I mean? That's what I mean when I say difference in communication.
Yeah. Well, that's not even like, that's just minimum expectations. Like he has to meet those.
Yeah.
I understand, like you can just say you're going through family stuff right now. I am not available, right? It's like, okay, understandable. But he didn't even say that. And he didn't show it, like he didn't say why he wasn't showing up to the meetings, and it's just that is, in my personal opinion, minimum for if you say you value communication. Yeah.
So I guess I'll trade you. When I said missing signs, I meant specifically signs of someone who is interested in you, but you did not pick up on them.
Oh, well, that's funny. I probably still haven't picked up on them to this day.
Okay. So I'll story time. Story time. Okay, so this event happened, right? And then I didn't fully realize the signs until I talked about it, I think like 2 years after, right? It was St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. And I was invited out to go to like a bar or something, right? Yeah. And at that time, I was not really into bars, right? I was like, I'm pretty against alcohol, right? I was very like, no alcohol, no, like, you know, that's not for me, right? So I was a good boy. Exactly. Society. Asian parents, you know, conditioning, whatever. Conditioning. And so I was like, no, I'm not gonna go. So instead of going to this place, I called up a friend because I was just like at home alone, and I was like, you know, let's talk to someone, and we talked about this experience, and I told him what happened, and he just started laughing.
Oh no! What happened?
And I was like, why are you laughing? And he was like, my guy, you missed the sign. And then like that's when okay, so
And yeah, what are the signs? Because I think I might have missed them too.
That was the trailer. Okay, we'll get into the actual movie.
Someone was interested in you? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay.
You? No, I'm kidding.
Shut the fuck up. To this day, I will never know if she was actually interested or not.
Hit her up.
Yeah, unless she like listens to this and then she's like,
Are you listening? What's her name?
I'm not gonna tell your name. No shot. Nice try, but yeah, but the story is, so me and this person, we were in a club together, right? We were executives on the club, and
Executives.
I can't remember what happened, but I think I lent her something, and then she was like, oh, like, I owe you, like, let me pay you back somehow. How about we like go get food or make dinner at my place, right? So I went over to her place, and so she lives on campus, right, like UBC, and so we had dinner, right, like we made food, whatever, and then we were just like chilling, and I can't remember if we watched anime or not, but it was getting late into the night, and I did not live on campus, right? I had like an hour commute out of UBC.
I see where this is going.
My last bus stops at I think 11, right? And so what happened was, I think she was like kind of sick, so like we planned to go on a walk, but we didn't, right? We just stayed in, and then she took a nap, and then I took a nap too. And then so what happened was, I woke up and I checked like the time, and I was like, shit, if I don't leave right now, I'm gonna miss my last bus. Right, and like to this day, sometimes that still kind of like hits me, this feeling of like, oh, like but like these days, I have a job. I'm not like a broke ass student. You can just Uber. Like I sometimes I forget that's an option. But at the time, that wasn't an option, right? Because I was a broke ass. So I didn't even think about that. I was like, do Ubers exist? Because I like never used an Uber before. So I was like, I need to leave now. Like I need to leave right now. And so I basically did that. I was like, oh, like I need to catch my last bus, right? So I just left. And like before this, we were kind of talking, but then after, our conversations really like died off, right? And I was clueless as fuck during this time.
Wait,
because
question.
Yes.
So when you were leaving, was she still taking a nap, or did you tell her that you were leaving? And did she say something like, "Hey, you can stay if you want," kind of thing?
She woke up, and then I woke up.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't actually nap though. I don't know if she knows this. I didn't, because she fell asleep, and then I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do, right? I guess I'll take a nap too, right? So but I didn't actually like sleep. So she woke up, and then I woke up too, and then that's yeah. What was your question?
Well, the question was, did she say anything to you as you were leaving? Or are you saying that you had to leave? Did she offer, saying, hey, you could stay if you want?
Right.
Yeah, what happened?
No.
Okay.
That did not happen. And I don't know if it was because I sounded really rushed and then just kind of like got out and didn't give her the opportunity. But that was essentially what happened. And then so when I was telling this friend this on St. Patrick's Day, he was like, so you were invited to a girl's place, you made dinner together, you took a nap together on her bed, and it was getting so like we were hypothesizing. We were like, okay, so and do you agree that when a girl invites you over to her place, I don't know, that's like a sign? Because
what I see personally is I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough there to really engage with this person. They can invite you over. They can. I think the most it says is they're comfortable with you.
Yes.
But it doesn't say they want to be in a relationship with you or do the dirty with you or anything like that. I think the most that says is that they're comfortable with you.
I think there's context that's missing. So I think that was the case. Like the comfort was there. We were hypothesizing. We were like, okay, well, if a guy invites someone over, it's like normal. It's whatever, right? But if a girl invites you over, then like that might be a sign. Right. But so that was one of her hypotheses. But then he was like, okay, well, she was also comfortable with just like taking a nap beside you. And there is this goes back to the whole, like, how with your story, you were like, I should have done this, even though there was no explicit communication. That's why I was like, was she dying on the walk? Because
I couldn't tell.
Maybe she wasn't dying. Like, maybe she was fine.
Yeah.
And so, with this, it's like, well, one of our other hypotheses was, well, it was late in the night, and usually when you stay over at someone's place late into the night, it's implied that you can stay there. And I'm like, oh, I guess I should have realized that or should have asked that. But when I was telling the story to another friend, he was like, you can't assume that because you don't know if that was the case or not. You don't know if that was what she was implying or if there was some sort of other expectation in terms of like what if she just wasn't comfortable with guys over at her place late, right? So, a part of me is like, oh, I should have done this, but I don't actually know if that was the right move or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the story. I missed a lot of signs. And then I think February 14 rolled around. It was like a month or actually, no, this happened this summer. It's like a couple months after this happened. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll like shoot my shot, see what happens. And so I asked her out and she was like, sorry, I'm already dating somebody else. Yeah. And so that was an interesting experience for me to kind of reflect back on because I was like, oh, science. Yeah,
you learn from that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think in that moment, you're probably kind of, or not in the moment, but if you had more context of what to do, I think the big thing was just ask questions, right? Inquire to understand things. I feel like if you know the questions to ask, you can kind of understand the situation better. So, I mean, I'm not very good at this either. I wouldn't know what questions to ask to begin with, but I'm sure there are questions you can ask.
Yes.
And I don't know your relationship with this person, like the first time you came over to their house, or what kind of like were they like always? I don't know. Like,
it was the first time. I can't remember if I like borrowed something and came, but like that doesn't really count, right? It's just like showing up to borrow whatever. But I would say that we were pretty good friends.
Okay.
Like in terms of, I feel like my definition of a friend has kind of changed over the years. But back then, right? If I was to put myself back then in the moment, I'd say we were pretty good friends. Like we were comfortable. We would joke around a lot. Yeah. Like in the I didn't realize this, but like looking back, I guess there was a bit of flirting going on because if you think about it, if there's like playful banter. Right, because that's all I viewed it at the time. I was like, oh, we're just like goofing off, right?
Yeah.
But to someone else, that can also be viewed as like flirting. So, I feel like there is something there.
Yeah.
But it's gone now. So best we can do is reflect back on it and learn.
Yeah. See, everyone has their own style. My style is just direct, right? I remember when I was, I guess, dating with my ex at the time.
Yes.
I really liked spending time with her, and I was at her place, and I thought, I was thinking of the question, should I stay over or should I leave, right? And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to ask her if she's comfortable with that or not.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, this is a very, like, I just asked the question. I was are you comfortable with me staying over? Like, it's completely fine if you don't want to. Yeah. I would like to stay over, but you don't have to, and I don't want to force you to.
Like sometimes it can feel very explicit.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, like, should I ask this question? It's too late.
Yeah. And you could turn it into a joke too. Yeah. And like with your situation, right?
Yeah.
How I would kind of do it, and this might not be the right way to do it. I would just be like, hey, you invited me over for dinner. You took a nap, and now I'm here really late. What was your intention of how, like, is there something more to this? Like, I'm a guy, right? And I just overthink the hell out of things. And I'm starting to think there's something here. Is there something here? And then she could be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I'd be like, okay, fine. That's fine. And she's like, or maybe she's like, I don't know. Maybe there is. Yeah. Maybe there isn't. And it's like, oh, okay. Maybe there is something here.
That's a very good approach. And what I think putting a layer of lightheartedness / jokingness onto stuff can always turn things around. Right. Because what I've learned with like social skills and social interactions is if you ever run into a situation where you kind of fuck up, you can always turn it into a joke and it would just pass. It would just pass. It's like a free pass. It's like a free get out of jail card.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I killed all those people. It's like, I mean, it was kind of funny.
I don't know if you could pass that one, but
you can make an O.J. Simpson joke. It's like, oh, look, the glove doesn't fit. It's like, see, guys, I didn't kill him. I don't know what you're talking about. And you're like, oh, well, it's so adorable. That guy's funny. Yeah, he didn't kill him. It's all good. Yeah.
Oh, man. But like...
Do you regret kind of that experience, or do you feel like more it's a learning experience and you want to carry that on in the future?
Okay, so I thought about this, right? And first, I'll say I feel like this is a good like milestone / check-in. Like I feel like you have moments in your life where you've just become, I don't know, like a better person of yourself, and then you look back in time at something, you're like, I would do that so differently. And I feel like this was one of the cases.
Yeah,
right?
that
Like,
happens to me too.
Yeah, I feel like I would have been like in that situation. I was very oblivious. I think if I was to move forward like a year or two, I would have been very anxious. I feel like now I would have just been comfortable in that situation, right? Like, because it's, life. You just have more life experience, emotional maturity, etc. But do I regret it? I don't think I would say I do, right? Like sometimes I wonder, I'm like, where could that relationship have gone? But I think overall, I'm like, yeah, learning lesson for the future, and you just kind of take things. You can't really change the past.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Can't change the past. Yeah, and so, yeah. Do you ever like regret things in like your relationship? Like, it's kind of a weird question because it's like you kind of just move on, right?
Yeah, I mean there are things that I do sort of regret, but it's more of a learning experience from those things. But there's also a lot of learning experiences, and most of the things I did, I believe I did a good job. In what I tried doing. I think my intentions were good, and that was the big point. In the end, it didn't end great, but I learned a lot from it, and I'll always remember it. Right? It was always like there were really good moments too. So I don't fully regret it. No.
That's good.
And I would totally do it again, except for maybe some of the bad parts.
Yeah. I feel you say that. I mean, same, right? I would redo that situation, and then like, there's this quote that I recently ran into that I really, really like, and it goes along the lines of, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And I feel like with quotes, you can always, if you take it to the extreme, then sure, it's not true, right? Like you can't.
I could totally say the wrong thing to the right person.
Yeah. You can't go out and slander people.
Dumbest shit.
but like if you take like and this is what I've learned with like quotes is you take things in a general context and you get it, right? Like if you say,
I actually don't get it.
You don't?
No, saying the wrong thing to the right person, that happens all the time.
Okay. So here's I'll so. Let's say you say like a quote unquote dumb thing to a person, right? If they are quote unquote the right person, they'll get your vibe and they'll return the energy. So if your dumb thing was a joke, then they'll interpret it as a joke and then they'll return it as a joke. Whereas quote unquote a wrong person, which let's say in your case would be someone like super, super serious, or maybe someone who doesn't really like expressing themselves or isn't used to expressing themselves, they would take it offensively, and they would distance themselves away from you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I really like that quote because it really vibes with this, I don't know, philosophy of like you can't please everyone.
It sounds like a be yourself, but with more steps.
Yeah. Be yourself is just so like I feel like that's something that you hear so often, and as you grow up, the meaning changes.
I kind of hate it.
Just be yourself.
Just be yourself. Yeah, guys, just be yourself. Yeah. Like, what if I'm a pedophile? What if I'm like a freaking serial killer?
That's where you take like that's where you take the quote to the extreme, right? Like the quotes, you always have to just generalize the content.
Just be yourself. Murder those children. It's all good. You love murdering children.
What's with you and murder, bro?
Don't worry about it. Look, I'm just being myself. You know what I'm saying?
Remember, crimes are not crimes unless someone finds out.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't hear that here.
You're only sorry when people find out about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, be yourself. It's like, yeah, be yourself. It's so confusing. But it's like, be yourself, but don't do this, right? Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Don't publicly masturbate. Don't.
I would say like be yourself. I think like a better, if I was to upgrade the quote, like give it a level up. It'd probably be like, I don't know, like be the best version of yourself you can be. right?
Oh, the best
Whatever.
version. Yeah.
Well, however you define that.
Yeah. Well,
right?
what's best in terms of what people want, what you want for yourself, or like what your job wants, what your relationship wants,
Obviously, what you want.
what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, but what if you want to murder a bunch of people? Like
That's taking the quote to the extreme,
if,
and
if the best version of yourself is to get a high score in how many people you can kill, then you're going to be the best version of yourself, right?
But I feel like in a general sense, people wouldn't want to go out and try to get a high score in killing people.
Oh yeah, most people don't. Most people don't. I guess the advice does apply to most people.
Yeah.
There are
like
those anomalies
general,
where they're like,
yes.
I'm a pedophile, or I like killing people, or I like scaring the hell out of people. Actually, that could be used in a job, like you work in a Halloween fun house.
Yeah.
That'd be
Like context matters with like these things. Yeah.
But yeah, be yourself doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, but I would say it works with most cases. But where I wanted to go with that is when I meet someone new, or when I talk to someone new, either through text or in person, I've started doing this thing where I incrementally take slightly more and more risks, because, well, maybe not like more risk, but like I do things that I see more risky.
Yeah.
Right. So recently I sent a voice memo to someone
Yeah,
while I was
yeah.
like kind of drunk. Right. And so that was very, very risky for me to do. But I like the quote because I keep that in mind. Right. It's like if you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Right. Like if you vibe with the person and the person vibes with you, then there shouldn't be a problem in any context, like a coworker context, like a business partner, a co-founder, a friend, a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've kept in mind more and more.
Yeah. So I was curious about Project Giraffe.
Mm.
Yeah, that was I think because your style is changing, and Project Giraffe is a new kind of style. I don't know if you feel like talking about it here, but I kind of want to learn about what kind of style you're going for.
Right. Okay. I'll hint on it. I'll hint on it. So I name all my projects after animal names, right? And Project Giraffe is basically romantic relationships.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And so the reason I asked you about the dating apps is because I hate dating apps.
Oh, I hate them too. Yeah.
I think a lot of people do. In the past, I had a period where I really, really hated dating apps and refused to use them. And then I caved, and then I used them, which made me hate them even more. And then so I stopped using them.
Yeah.
But I realized when I used them, I was like, this is a completely different game. Like how you get matches, how you talk to people, how you eventually go on like dates and stuff. It's very, very different from how you would do this in real life.
Yeah.
And at that time in my life, I was busy with like school, I was busy with shit, and I was like, I do not want to learn how to play this game right now. Right?
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time. And so but this time around, I had a second round, and I did learn how to play the game essentially, and I still fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, it's a part is like you play the game and you get to the good stuff afterwards, right? After you play the game, like that's what you're aiming for.
Exactly. Like I think the biggest problem that I have with dating apps and learning how to play the game is people sometimes are in person are not who they seem in text.
Yeah.
Like I have really good friends who are great people in person, but they're terrible texters.
Yeah.
And so
What
bothers me is if someone is shitty at texting, like, because that's the communication you're using when you're on dating apps, right? Do I give them a chance IRL? And that's the thing that kind of like trips me up. And also, like, I'll also say that the stuff you learn on dating apps in terms of getting matches and stuff, it's not super applicable anywhere else. And so I have two streams going, right? Like one is like this dating apps, which I'm probably gonna deprecate at some point. But the other is this like approaching people in person and getting to know them in person, leveling up your social skills, like putting yourself out there, essentially going to more events and stuff. And I think that is a lot more of a better longer term solution, because you learn a lot more. Like if you're learning social skills and how to connect with people and how to be more of yourself and be more comfortable, there's a lot more transferable skills there than like learning how to get matches and connect with people through texting and their photos and their prompts, and how to be witty and like how to seem lighthearted and all this other stuff. And Yeah, I just like the IRL route a lot better for so many reasons.
I've used the skills I learned in the IRL route to do job interviews. It's really helpful.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you're, in a way, when you're on a date, you're trying to show your best version of yourself, right? In an interview, it's kind of the same thing. You're not trying to talk about the negative stuff too much at all.
Yes.
You're not saying, oh, I hate this guy, right? You're doing the same in an interview and a date. You're trying to look decent or look good. So I've kind of transferred those skills between each other, and I think that really prepared me for my interviews I had. The one I had recently, especially. I've been on 5 dates with different people, or 5 different people I met and went on dates with.
Yes.
And it was just there'd be uncomfortable moments, there'd be great moments, and I learned to stay completely calm in those situations, and that really helped me with my interviews. So I feel like the IRL route is very transferable.
Yes. Okay, I'm actually very curious about this. So my bias here is that, because I don't have enough data to disprove this, is that if someone is a terrible texter, then you don't know whether or not they're an amazing person. In your experience with dating apps and going on dates, because I feel like you've gone on more dates than me, do you think that the person that is shown on text is relatively close to the person you see IRL?
Depends on the person, right? I have stories where the person was close to the person they were on text.
Yeah.
So I'd say my ex is pretty close to the person she was in text.
Yeah.
But a date I went on with somebody recently,
Yeah.
that person was completely different during text.
I see.
So they were the person I was talking to, they were the most engaged with me that I've ever had in terms of the dates that I had.
Like IRL.
IRL, yeah.
Okay.
So they're always very strong eye contact, very engaging in the conversation, very interested.
Yeah.
Lots of back and forth. We could talk for hours, right? In text, it'd be here's a message. 4 hours later, message.
Yeah.
And it'd be not much.
What? Okay. what is the percentage that this happens? So are 1 in 10 people inconsistent with this?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or in your experience?
Okay, I'm gonna think about who's consistent and who's not.
Okay.
So, 1.
And while you're thinking, if y'all have input in the comments, let us know. I need more data.
Hit that like button. Just leave a comment in the description.
Yes.
Oh, wait, not in the description.
Unless you're on Spotify or Apple, then follow the podcast. I don't know a podcast.
Hit that follow button. I didn't even get to think about.
Yeah. You were supposed to think about it while I was.
Oh yeah, I'm counting.
Okay.
1. Okay. I'm thinking of situations. Okay. I would say right now, more often, people are less consistent with their text versus IRL. So their texts aren't as consistent with their IRL personality.
Okay. So when you say more, you're saying above 50%.
I would say 60-40.
Okay. So 60% of people are inconsistent between text and IRL.
Yes, that's from my personal experience.
Yeah. That just makes it all the more reason to just go the IRL route.
Yeah.
Not fuck dating apps.
Because I was talking to someone, right?
Yeah.
When I got back into the dating scene, and they would send long messages, essays, and be very engaging in conversation and text. When I went on my first date with them, arms crossed, brow furrowed, no eye contact.
Yeah.
I felt like I was wrong for existing. I just felt like I shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
During text, it was all flowery and nice, but during this interaction with this person, it was just no, I don't want to be around you kind of thing. I felt like that anyway.
But do you know if this person just had a bad day? Did you bring it up or?
No, they've just been consistently they just had resting bitch face.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And they would talk normally, right? But during text, it'd be all flowery and nice and really, really comfortable and engaging.
Oh, I see.
So it's, people are usually 60-40 in my opinion.
Yeah.
Different from when they're texting.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, dating apps, man.
Dating apps, society.
Have you learned anything from dating apps that you've applied to IRL?
The dating apps themselves, or The dates that happen follow.
No, the experience. So like I feel like there's a lot of things you can learn IRL that you can apply to dating apps, right? But I feel like
just using the app itself.
Yeah, or maybe even like both ways. Because I can like go first if nothing comes to mind.
Sure.
I don't know if I think I did first learn this from dating apps, and I only learned this, and this is why like again like dating apps are. I think sometimes you can get stuck in your own way of thinking. And it's not only until someone else comes around or unless you see someone else do things differently that you begin to change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because like you're so like stuck in your way of thinking. It's like how, it's hard. So what happened was I had Hinge. My roommate had Hinge. I read through his matches and the way he was messaging people.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned through that. Like I knew that a problem that I had with dating apps is that I took it too seriously.
Right? Oh yeah, just have fun. You're supposed to just have fun.
Yeah. But that's not as easy as it sounds. Okay, at least for someone like
really? I love fucking around on there. I remember this one girl was like, I was talking about food because I like food.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you having for lunch? And she just said, like, I'm having a nut or something like that. And she grammatically like had it incorrect, right? It was supposed to be nuts.
Yeah.
But it was like a single nut. And I'm like, what the fuck are you, a squirrel or something? And like. We had a little bit of a back and forth, but then I got bored and then we just kind of fizzled out.
I think that's so great to do that because for me, I'm like, oh, dating app equals dates equals success, right? Therefore, dating apps interactions equals must get dates.
Right.
But that's a very like that's a mindset that allows you to take things too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And so I heard that all the time. I was like, you need to take it less seriously. You need to take it less seriously. And I was like, okay, I'll try taking it less seriously. So then I tried taking it less seriously. But then when I looked at my roommate's Hinge and the way he was messaging people, I was like, this is the energy that I want. And like what I was doing was not close to this. So even though in my head I was taking it less seriously, it was not as like have fun. It wasn't even close to that. It was only when I saw that where I was like, oh, this is the vibe that I should be going into these interactions with.
Yeah.
And so, like, me and my roommate, we talked about it, and then, like, I got his input on the way he approached things, and it was interesting to learn because through that, I feel like I've also applied that to IRL too. Where, like, you don't take things as seriously, you just kind of, like, be yourself, and you just go with the flow and see what happens. Have fun, essentially.
Find joy in the situation, dude.
Yeah.
Even when things get awkward or weird, just enjoy it. Like, just sit in it. Yeah.
Sit in it.
Yeah, sit in your crap. What garbage you say, sit in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that's what I learned from dating apps that I've applied. I feel like I've applied it both ways. Learn that dating apps apply to IRL and then apply IRL dating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I've been on a few not great dates, so I think you just try to have fun during that situation. I don't know.
I also don't like the word dates. I think I told you this the other day. Did I talk about this the other day?
Yeah, you did tell me about that.
What's your opinion on?
Well, I thought about it more, and the reason that I was able to even be in a relationship with my ex to begin with, I think, is because it had that low expectation to begin with. Like, we didn't have a dating expectation. It was just more like just talking.
Yes.
And we did that for a while. We talked for months before we even started dating.
Yeah.
But the first is like when you meet someone and then you put that expectation that it's a date, it becomes a lot more serious, unfortunately.
Yes, exactly. Like you can't like almost like you feel almost constricted.
So when oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go for it.
When I was talking on the dating apps, and I would talk with people and they say something like, we could totally be friends, right? I don't see that as offensive, like, oh, I'm being friend zoned. I see that as, oh, what a relief. I don't have to like date this person. I could just hang out with this person and whatever happens. I could go to get food with them. I could enjoy my chicken wings or something. They could talk about whatever they want. I could talk about whatever I want. There's no expectation.
There's no expectation.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if they don't like me, I still have all these other friends that I can hang out with. So, yeah.
Damn. So would you ever use the word date on a dating app?
Yeah, I've used it.
Like in what sense?
Do
you want to go out on a date?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've said that.
Do you see that as something that is too strong?
It could be. I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming you went on the date, right? Like what happened?
Oh, actually, the person I used it on.
Yeah. didn't respond?
No, they responded.
Yeah.
It was more like, oh man, I was just lazy.
Okay.
I was just like, hey, do you want to go on a date?
Bruh.
I'd been on like so many different dates at this point.
Yeah.
I was so tired. I was going through the motions at this point.
Yeah.
So I just asked directly, hey, do you want to go on a date, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Mm.
And then I thought, oh shit, I have to plan a place, find a location,
Yeah.
find
Dude,
a
it's
time.
like, oh man.
And then I thought, screw that.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't follow up.
Yeah. My strategy is like pick something that I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then just like invite them
Yeah,
to it.
that was-
Because at the very because society, right? It's like,
Society,
oh, we
yeah,
have to
we
like
have to choose the place.
well, guys have to initiate, right? It's like, hey man, if I'm gonna initiate, I'm gonna do something that I actually want to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, right.
And then worst case, if it doesn't work out, then at least I get to enjoy
That's
the
the
thing
way
that I
to look
wanted to
at it.
do, right?
That's the way.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to sit at home,
Yeah.
watch I'll play video games. I just wanted to play video games,
Yeah.
eat snacks,
Yeah.
watch Netflix. I didn't want to do I don't
Yeah.
want to go out.
Yeah.
So that person got unlucky and caught my lazy side, and we didn't plan anything. But
I
she
see.
didn't reciprocate any sort of plans either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't think I would use the word date.
yeah,
Ever
that makes
on a
sense.
dating
It is a little bit of a strong word to
Yeah.
use, but I was feeling like you do sometimes experimental. I just thought, what would happen if I said this?
Yes.
Yeah.
You just have to experiment.
Yeah.
Like I think I asked this question when I first started using dating apps, and no one could give me a good enough answer, which is like I find that there have been instances in my life where I'm like, I ask people this and they don't give me a good enough answer, and then like I learn and I'm like, man, why didn't anybody tell me this? And so if you're using dating apps right now, here's my take on the word date, right? And like if I was talking to myself in the past, this guy who has never really used dating apps before, right?
Mm-hmm.
My question was, what exactly is a date, right? Like, do you use the term date? Is it bad to? Is it not? Does it create expectation? And I feel like my answer to that person in the past, like me in the past, basically is, my philosophy is you should get to know each other. The entire point of a date is to get to know each other, and you don't need to call it a date to have that happen. Like, why call it a date and have all this expectation of like, oh, we're a thing, we're going like relationships, we're a thing, we're like, if you call the meetup a date, there's this, oh, we're in a relationship already, kind of. That's the intent.
That's too much pressure.
Yeah, it's too much pressure, right? And
Yeah.
so I think I just use the word hangout, or you don't even like mention it. You're just like, oh,
Yeah, because
like,
then you don't have to pay for a meal.
well, okay, yeah. The other strategy, so one of my other I was talking to one of the friends about this, and his strategy is don't go out for food, just go out for like coffee or bubble tea or something, or
I
like
like
go
food.
do an activity, then I don't know, go for like a snack or something, like and I like that because it also, I think asking someone, hey, do you want to grab dinner, is in
Dinner's
some
a bit
cases
strong.
too strong,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Right? So those are all like like, do you have any more tips? Just like throw them out there,
Dude.
throw them into the mic.
Dude, oh man. Okay, the only time you go to, this is my philosophy anyway, on a first date, if you don't go out for food, right? Unless they say they want to. Then you go out for food, because you know
Yes.
they want to, and you stick around to eat the food, right? You're both enjoying that stuff.
Yes.
But if they don't say they want to go out for food, you mentioned coffee. Coffee's a good one. I like that, or just pastries or whatever.
It's also like, and this is where like the game comes into play, right? This how do you properly use dating apps? Like, this is also where talking to them and getting to know what they actually want is important, right?
Everyone's so different. It's so hard.
Yeah. But there are some pretty common ones, right? There's like, I think food is a pretty common, right? Like, are they a foodie? Are they not? Like, what do they prefer? I think coffee is also common, right? Like, if they say in their profile they like coffee, or like, I don't know, you can, I feel like it's a bit of like a creative process. Whereas like you talk about things, like an example is you can like thread into the coffee question. You can say, oh, how's your morning? Right. I'm sure you can see the thread here where she can answer,
Sort of,
and
yeah.
then you can be like, oh, I just grabbed the coffee this morning and I'm like really tired at work. Do you also drink coffee in the morning.
Yeah, and then she tells you what coffee she drinks, and you say, really, you drink that coffee? That's so gross.
And then you roast it, and then you're like, let me show you something better. How about we go to like this premium coffee place? If you're into coffee, you know?
And like, do you even know what coffee tastes like? Let me show you the real coffee. And she's like, well, now I have to go on a date with this person.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just, that's how it works.
Yeah. Oh man, this person is like so common. This is shitty dating advice. Okay, don't actually do this. But seriously though, that was a joke. Please don't take that as dating advice. Also, hi again. You've made it to the end. There is no outro because this episode was cut from the previous one. So I'm here doing an outro. And on this channel / podcast, we like to experiment. So this was an experimental format. In the next podcast, you'll see a different format, so stay tuned for that. And if you're on Spotify, there's a poll because I upload the video version of this podcast to Spotify. I don't actually know if people find it useful. So if you have strong opinions about whether or not you prefer video or audio, go on Spotify, vote on the poll. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, well, you just get the audio version. So, it's kind of like a buffet. You kind of get to pick and choose what you want. But anyways, thank you for listening. That is the end of the episode. If you have guests that you'd want me to interview or topics you'd want to see covered, let me know. Other than that, Nelson isn't here, but I'm here. So I will say goodbye to you. All right. Peace. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Bye.